Well, we're moving forwards in leaps and bounds here. So what I'm basically doing is trying to get the radiator roughly in the right sort of place. And it's a bit of a nightmare because, you know, the instructions do come with some very, very, very basic measurements. So for instance, 115 millimeters from the kind of the straight line of the front wing and 250 millimeters back from the front panel. So we can check all of that. Really, I had a lot of struggle with kind of just supporting it roughly in the right sort of place. Was my initial problem. Got over that really just by pop riveting a lump of steel up here and holding it up like that. Now, where's my ruler gone? Where's ruler? I was using ruler not 2 minutes ago. That ruler would have been taken up, of course. So it's roughly in the right sort of place. I've got the bottom edge level with the chassis rail. So it fits exactly where I want it to fit. Oh, there's a pen exploded there. Dynamite pen. Where's the fucking rest of that then? Fucking thing. Right. It wasn't very constructive, Richard, was it? Now, what I'm really going to do, I think, is probably just going to put a screw or something or fold it so that I can lift out the radiator matrix. I've got these two brackets down here on the chassis, which I'm going to weld into place. Just going to put a weld along the top, down each side. Doesn't need to go right way round. It's just there to support the radiator more than anything else. But currently they're held in with furniture clamps, with F clamps. So that really is where I'm at. So I think the next trick is going to be to put the core radiator into the frame, and let's see if the hoses line up. Now, I can't do the top hose because I've got the wrong thermostat housing, but I might be able to do the bottom hose and just confirm that that is going to work. As you can see, there's just lumps of metal all over the place in here today. I need to have a proper good tidy up. And then find my ruler, double check the measurements, triple check the measurements, quadruple check the measurements. Yeah, this will do. Ensure that the steering relay is going to miss it. And then when I'm absolutely confident, I can weld those bottom mounts in and I can sort out what I'm going to do for the top mounting. I've taken the intercooler out because it was just in the way. Everything's in the way today. It's one of those days. Sunday, pissing down with rain. There's the ruler, look. I knew it wasn't far. Right, so let's get this thing back in and measure. I shot while lateral. I have cut this piece out here, but I don't think now that I've mounted the radiator further over that way, it's going to cause me too many problems. Now, as you can see, we're clear of the brake line down there, which is good, and we're clear of the relay, because I think the relay is on its furthest extent. It's as far round as the wheels will go. So I'm confident there. Then we got the ruler. So if I put that at 25 centimetres, yeah, it's probably 26 centimetres, but by the time I pulled that back in a little bit, it'll be 25 centimetres, because obviously it's just a little bit looser on the top edge. And then I think I'm going to make a bracket or something on the top here, well, perhaps weld it onto the frame to then fix onto these myriad of tiny little holes we've got here. And then there's bags of room in the middle for the electric fan, which I'll come on to in a second. So I'm going to get the matrix into this, and I am going to then work out whether the hoses are right, and if the hoses are right, I'm going to weld this fucker in. Not weld the frame in, I'm going to weld the brackets onto the chassis. So when the correct top thermostat is on, top hose is going to fit, intercooler fits with radiator in place. There's good clearance now, the turbo inlets will fit, just need to shorten one of the hoses by about an inch. On this side, sorry, looking straight into the light there, let's put the light somewhere more useful, like down there. I got a problem with the bottom hose in that, in order to get it to fit, it severely kinks the bottom hose. I'm going to have to work out what I'm going to do with that. I'll take it off and fiddle around with the bits. Maybe I've got it on the wrong way round, but it did say water pump end on the little short end. Now I had to shorten them as well. I think when the pipes are supplied, there's a fair amount of kind of like give. Generosity, I guess, in the application of the pipe. But you can see that bottom pipe there. as it comes out is quite severely kinked. Now I don't really want to bring the radiator anymore over, because already you can see we are close to the brake lines, and I just think that that is going to be tempting fate there. So I'm going to have a fiddle around with this bottom hose and see if I can do anything better with that. I have got boxes and boxes of other hoses, so it could well be that the bit that comes out of the bottom of the water pump just needs some minor modification. You can't see any of that because you're looking at the plate, but other than that, that sort of fits. I don't think the rad is going to move any further over this way. I think it is kind of located. It's where it's going to be. And also I'm comfortable that all these intercooler hoses and everything are going to fit inside the inner wing. There's no real issue there. It's a bit of a tight fit, but you know, it's not a bad kit. Oh, there's a trip hazard there. It's not a bad kit at all. Yes, I think. You can hear the rain is absolutely pounding down outside, so I'm going to carry on fiddling around with this, put the radio back on. Right, Sunday after Storm Eunice. It's got a bit of rain and so forth kicking around outside, but it's not horrendous. I'll get that pipe out of the way. See roughly what's going on in here. It's clank, clank, clank. So first and foremost, damage report. Aside from the shed moving around under the strength of the wind and the bench lifting as the shed was tilting, quite alarming. The power went out, as you know, and the power came back on Sunday, today. So no work yesterday, no work Friday. Never mind. More important things to worry about. I mean, obviously domestic supplies came at the forefront of Southern Electric, and you can't blame them for that. And if I had my domestic supplier, I'd be wanting it bloody fixed as well, quickly. The possibility of a surge went away, and I'll tell you what the problem was. It was that I only had 130 volts, so a phase had disappeared somewhere. I'm walking around the estate. They were all a bit puzzled as to why their kettle was taking forever to boil, as was I. Right, let's get on to the Steve Parker installation again on the 200 TDI. So basically, I had to buy a new actuator. The old one was broken, so I bolted that back up to the inlet, and I've got it because this thing was not stock. It had some weird setup. So this is how the turbo kind of comes in its 200 TDI, and you can see that the nose is pointing downwards, and it might work, but it's actually easier if I was to rotate the turbo around. So what they're suggesting, and I'll go through it in a second, is you rotate the turbo. I'm going to have to take the actuator off, but you rotate the turbo so that this outlet is pointing more up than it was before. Now, I was a bit confused by some of the instructions, so let's go over to the bench, and I'll walk you through what my understanding of those instructions. Oh, and the radio survived as well. The radio didn't like running at 130 volts, 134 volts to be precise. So I'm delighted to say that the radio has survived. Right, okay, these are the instructions that are supplied. Not to scale, turbo modification, view from rear. Now, I wasn't entirely sure I understood what was going on here. Because basically, when I line this up here, I've got the lug I think they're talking about, but they're actually talking about the lug on the turbo, so let's go and get the turbo. And there isn't one. So, my understanding now, and I'm going to double check this before I cut, is that this 2 bolts needs to be replicated and put to this position over here and equidistant from the edge there. Does that make sense to you? So what I'll do is these red markings on here, they were me just kind of, you know, giving a rough idea about where, can you even see? You can. These red markings here were just me doing my playful kind of setup, because I wasn't really understanding what the problem was, because if I show you the old actuator that came off, it was broken anyway. Here's the old actuator, and there's the new actuator, and you can see that it's had this bracket welded on there, okay, crudely welded on, cut around, and I thought, well, okay, well, maybe I could salvage that. But then the thread was so seized up there. And as soon as I was undoing the lock nut, let alone the other nut, it snapped off. Now, I could weld it back together again. But I figured the actuator was available on eBay, actually, this one. I know what I say. I say all the time about buying new stock, brand new parts off eBay and Chinesium and so forth. The guy that had got this had a brand spanking new 200 TDI turbo and wanted to change the actuator. So he lobbed the actuator onto eBay. And I bought it. Damn sight cheaper. Right, so I'll undo these 2 bolts here. And I'll see if I can, in my ham-fisted way, explain what it is I think that they mean. That can stay there. Take the pipe off. So we've got the housing like this. And what they're basically saying is they want the actuator to move from there to there. Right, and you're back with me. Back with me. So, as I understand, I want to move the actuator from that position to that position. So now, if I was to roughly hold that into place and line it up, then you can see that the housing has moved around and is going to be in a better position for me to work with. Okay, I'll need to rotate the pin here that goes onto the what's its name, but by doing that, we're having the pipe pointing from down there to up there. Okay, that's my logic, and I think that's going to work. So literally now, exactly as it says in the instructions, I need to tap 2 holes for that to fit there. Okay, from there to there. So I'm going to get busy with Mr. Drilly. Kind of like that. So I have, it's not actually fixed on yet, so let me just carefully withdraw the housing. Gibbon. Right, housing's off. There we go. You can see that I've mounted the actuator just slightly around. They're an M6 bolt that's on here. I mean, pretty much you can tap. I guess I could have tapped them out to be quarter UNF or UNC, but M6, I've got an M6 tap. And it was just a case of drilling, working out how deep that was, drilling in there, and then tapping the hole. So it's got a start tap, or primary tap, or whatever you want to call them. Then I've got, because I've got so many of these damn things, and I keep picking them up whenever I see them at junk sales and so forth, I then create a bottom tap by taking the chamfered edge off the end of it. So I start with kind of a pointy tap and then finish off with that one, and that was good enough. That enabled me to tap the hole to the bottom. Now, the next 2 things to consider on this. First and foremost, I have had to extend the actuating arm quite a lot. The nut was where it was, and you can kind of see where it needs to be. Now, I'm not sure if it was right before or whether the arm is bent incorrectly or what. I don't know. The second thing is that the vacuum pipe that did connect onto there needs to be extended, so I'm going to have to get some longer vacuum pipe. I have got some. I'll just need to create that, and then I can put this thing together. Now, there is a seal. There's a bloody great big O-ring around the edge of the turbo housing there, which I need to replace before I put this lot back together again. So I've ordered one of those. That should be here this week. So for now, there's not an awful lot more I can do with this, and I've also ordered brand spanking new feed and return pipes. This is the feed pipe that came with the old turbo, and while it would probably work, I'm inclined to replace it. The return pipe is just totally incompatible with the stock turbo, so I'm going to replace that. But that, yeah, quite pleased so far with that. And then before the turbo gets bolted onto the manifold properly, I need to make sure I've got the down pipe and everything sorted out. So that's my next job. And I've got a complete Steve Parker's exhaust system for a 200 TDI into a Series 3 88. So I'm going to unbox that and see what we've got. I'll just double check I've got all the bits so that I can actually start to get this thing together rapidly. Because it really is just a giant Meccano set now with a little bit of welding. Jackie came over this morning, my wife came over this morning, just to help me finish off the brakes, because although I was using the Easy Bleed system, Because of the nature of the thing, I don't think the Easy Bleed was actually pushing all of the air out of the system, because when we started doing it in the traditional manner of opening the bleed nipple, your assistant, or my wife, my charming wife, pressed the brake pedal down, and then I closed the nipple off before she releases the pedal. I was able to get an incredible amount of air out of the back, but a little bit of air out the front. Now, the pedal is actually a lot better than it was, but really, I'm not 100% sure yet that I've got all of the air out of it. Certainly having the bottle hanging up here done off help. So I'm using, as you saw in an earlier video, or maybe an earlier version of this video, I don't know because I lose track, this little fella. So you just hang it up, and it's got a nice right angled bleed nipple attachment, and then a 10mm spanner, and yes, that was quite effective at bleeding the front brakes here. So in my latest episode of Bundle of Joy on the series, about the series, with the 200 TDI, not the series, I've been trying to sort the turbo. I've been trying to sort the turbo feed and return lines for the oil, and so I bought myself a brand spanking new oil feed line. Look at that. That is a thing of beauty. Really is. There's a link scrolling across the bottom of your screen, which is where I got it from. Very, very, very nice. Really like that. And you can see the problem we've got here is that there's the original kind of turbo oil feed line, and there's the one that I've got, which is about twice the length. So I thought, well, we might as well put the proper one on. It's only a screw-on device. There you go. There it is. The bloody thread's different. So the stub that's in the block here that this attaches onto has obviously been changed at some point, because the thread's different. It doesn't fit. Oh, for pity's sake. And then the joy gets better, because I've fitted the actuator onto the turbo. I've got the downpipe on the turbo. I was going to get all this all lined up today, basically get the feed and the return lines on, and I can fit the turbo and be done with it. And guess what? Not only does the feed line wrong, the return line's wrong as well. So the return line, where are we? It's over here. See the kettle boy in the background. These things are fucking expensive new, and it's only just literally a piece of heat-proof pipe. So I managed to find one used old stock, which I don't mind doing for a return line. It doesn't leak, it's fine. That fits into the base of the turbo. That fits... Oh, fucking ham-fisted gibbon. That fits onto the block. Now, obviously, I'll give this a clean before it goes onto the engine. The problem I've got is, again, this thread down here that goes onto the block is wrong. So the little stub that goes into the block is wrong. I don't understand. How can this be happening to me? Fucking thing. So I can't do anything with the turbo today. Arse! I still need to sort out this whole frame and get it painted and finish it off, but all I'm doing at the moment is just lining things up, getting things roughly in place. I need to take these brackets off the side because I just don't need them. They might stay there or not, I don't know. Trim the top piece up here, and then I thought, well, before I go too far, let's get this fan fitted. Now I can already see a problem with this, and that is that I hadn't considered the way that these things mount. And that's going to kind of sit here where I want the where the pipe to go. So I think what I'll do is I'll line it all up, get the parts. If I stand you up here, you can have a look, can't you? And I can work two-handed. How about that? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Right, here we go. There we go. Right. So the kit is complete, and it's got a world of parts and these nice powder coated CNC chopped out brackets, which I believe are going to go like that. I say that because when I look at the fan, there's no obvious drain hole on it, and I would have expected the and that's just not going to fit that way. So I think, because I haven't got any instructions with this at all, I think that it really goes this way round. I'll ignore the rest of the electrics. So that kind of fits like that. I wonder how high up I can put it. So that might work, because it's a little bit higher up. Let's get all these other bits of plastic out. So I've got all of these little clamps. A world of non-recyclable white plastic. Come on, Revo, you don't need to do this. Put it all in a brown paper bag. It's a bit excessive. Okay, you can reuse them. There you go, that's that lot in the bin on its way to landfill. Then these chappies, I think, go into... Oh no, they go that way. Look. Oh right, okay. That looks like it can only go in that way as well, because it's got a pivot on it. Basically, the end there. So that's not the way round I was thinking it was going to be. I'm obviously not going to push down on the matrix here, folks, just in case you were worried about that. Ah, right, now what is going on? So that goes down there. Do they go any deeper than that? No. That's as far as it goes. Whew. So that's that. And that, we've got those on there, and then we've got these brackets. Now it's got to go that way round, so let's bolt these up next. We've got some butts and nuts here, and we've got some zip ties and bits and bobs there, and electrical connectors. I've got a nice sealed thermostat control unit with a relay that goes onto the top hose. I've got clips, more zip ties, that thing there which I think goes on top of the thermostat there, because there's a screw on the top of the thermostat to allow you, I guess, to adjust the temperature. Oh, here's some instructions. Oh, this is just the fan controller instructions, doesn't tell me anything about the fan. I'm devastated. Look, the instructions have been sent upside down. Twat. Right. 30 amp relay. Increased temperature in a clockwise direction. Water flow. Blah de blah de blah. There you go. Remove 20mm section from top hose. Installation. This is all about the fan controller, which I don't actually need to do anything with the fan controller yet, because really I want to mount the radiator first of all. So let's get a small box. We'll put the bits that I don't need into the box. Fan controller. That is all to do with the fan controller, I believe. That's all to do with the top hose and fan controller. Don't know what that is. That's just some exclusion, whatever. And then I've got 4 long nuts and bolts. Don't know where they go. That instruction's not exhaust fitting instructions. I'm going to come on to that in a second. Let me put that into exhaust pile. Because one thing Steve Parker's do, which is very nice, is they do put their own instructions in the box. It just makes things a little bit nicer, doesn't it? Now, what I don't know here is whether that goes on like that or like that. I suspect it's inclined to go on like that. Now, what's on the other side of this? So however it goes on there, unless that goes onto there. No, it can't go onto there because it doesn't fit. So it has to go onto these. It's going to mount sideways. It's going to have the electrics going towards the driver's side of the car, because we're looking at the front of the radiator, top of the radiator, bottom of the radiator, front of the car. So with that and that does actually line up with the edges of the radiator surround, which is good news, isn't it? So it looks then that I have to drill holes on here to mount this, and then mount that to there. Now the only thing is, I haven't actually got a huge number of nuts and bolts here. I've got these ones. Again, some nice non-recyclable plastic, destined for dolphin or a turtle or something. That's going to have to go. Hey! That is that side. I suspect that the dome head will go from underneath and then through, and then washer, and then nylock. Because I think that that is going to protect the surface of the radiator. And then I have to provide my own fixings for the side of the radiator. I suspect this stuff here is to go around the face of the radiator to stop it rattling against the matrix. I think what I'll do, there is a fair amount of up and down movement on this thing, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally put in, because I'm going to struggle with this bit down here. Let me drill some holes, so the radiator's going to have to come out first of all. Drill some holes and just put a couple of self-tappers in there just to double check that it's going to work for me. So I think first and foremost, let's get the radiator out. Well, it's a step closer, at the same time it's a step further away. So the mountings are at the right sort of height for me to mount the radiator frame on. Down here you can see there's a mounting there. I just held it on with a furniture F-clamp at the moment. So I've got that roughly in place, but then the problem I've got then is the fan is now right on top of the intercooler. So I'm going to need to find a better way of mounting. I'm looking in here. It's not the best light, Richard, is it really? Let's put this light up here. Does this light go up here? A day-all light. There you go. Might work. I don't know, it might work, it might not. It's all in the preparation, Richard. You can see a bit better in there now. I'm actually thinking if I get some really heavy duty steel, something like, well, I could probably take that, but not as an L section, just cut it and then have that so it then fixes onto the top of the front rail. I've not done any welding on this thing at all yet. And then the radiator actually sits on it. I'm wondering if that might be a better idea. Then I can adjust it and bolt the frame up. It's going to be really, really, really fine though. I thought about losing this piece here. So take this entire section, this bit in here, take that out and then move the intercooler this way slightly, but then that's going to interfere with the pipes here and going in. So the intercooler, as far as I'm concerned, is where it needs to be. I'm not going to gain anything by shifting it across that way, even slightly. It is tight though. It's really tight. And I don't know if the fan is a slightly different design to anything else. It's quite a slimline fan, but I think when the radiator goes in, I'm going to have to take more off this. I took the threaded section off there. I'm going to have to take even more off. Probably need to take the water pump off just to make sure that I'm not going to actually damage the water pump by taking this shaft back any further. So I'll put the radiator matrix back in, and you can see the problem I've got now. When the fan is clearing the intercooler, look how close it is to the water pump pulley down here. So that's unacceptable. So the whole radiator needs to go back about ½ an inch. The reason I put the matrix back in is I wanted to see, when everything was bolted up, how tight it was going to the actual radiator matrix. So I'm going to relocate to the bench. Let me just pop you over here. You can go there. Let's just clear a little space. Nicely organised there, Richard. Nicely organised. I'll get this out without bashing it. Ooh. It's got some weight to it, I tell you. Right. so that's out. Goes in and out a lot easier with this this mechanism where I just kind of balance it on those two pieces. Now, my rationale here now is that this radiator is a good finger's width clear of the fan. So I think what I'm going to end up doing here is, if I was to push the fan down on these mountings towards the radiator, or even put these plates in behind this upright, it's going to get the whole thing a lot closer to the matrix, and give me this vital space that I need in between the radiator and the intercooler. This is really where I'm going now. I'm going to take a little bit of material from the bench, aren't I, folks? This bench was clear when I started this job, because, you know, you're getting tools out constantly to do little jobs and bits and bobs, and then you end up with no bloody bench space. This whole bench was clear this morning when I started this. Right, that's better. Now these are the various brackets and bits and bobs that I've drilled the spot welds out. So that's all come off the radiator matrix, sorry, the radiator frame. So I think, really, now, just check there's nothing underneath here, there isn't. Okay, that's good. Now, I think what I really want to do is find some way of pushing this closer. Now, it could well be that I end up just putting a bend on this so that it brings the matrix in closer. That might work. The other thing is, I kind of haven't got a mounting for that there. I'm going to find a different way of mounting that onto. You even looking at what I'm looking at, you are. This piece here, down here, isn't beautiful. Right, I'm going to carry on messing around with this, and I'll come back and let you know how the engineering solution is going, because effectively I want to get this so that this actually sits completely flat on against the surface here. That's actually not that bad, you know. Right, where I'm going with this thing, this edge over here, I'm going to mount it underneath there like that, because it gives me a way of kind of securing the fan tight against. I've bent this edge and I put it back down onto the mountings, and it's, well, a lot less than a finger's gap away from the radiator core. But then this side's a little bit further away. And what I'm thinking now is that, oh, that comes off there. I'm going to put washers in between the metal plate and the plastic bracket there. I think that is going to help it. Right, let's see how that looks now. So position that edge underneath there, position this down onto these, make sure the cable is not going right the way through. That goes down, that goes down. Oh, I think we might be there, chaps. It's looking good. Let me do, I'm going to put some bolts, nuts on this side now, we'll see what happens. I'll go and line it up in the car again. Yeah, we're proud of the matrix. Up. Just get a position in the car again. Let's see how it looks this time. So we're not touching the matrix, and I use the foam, but we're a lot closer than we were. That's already well better. I can tell you now. So basically, in here we are. You can hear it touching the matrix, sorry, touching the intercooler. So at the top here, this really wants to be that sort of distance away so that the fan is clear. And then I've got a finger's width off the end of the pulley here. What I might do then is just take that nipple off the end of the pulley. I think we're getting somewhere now. Great leaps forward have been established. Turbo's in place, exhaust is in place, all the wiring around the starter motor are tidied up here. So the problem you're going to have with the starter motor is you've got the proximity of the exhaust manifold and also the downpipe. I'm going to put a heat shield up here and a heat shield down here. I've already got heat resistant kind of tubing over the bulk of the pipes there, just really to protect them. The clutch is now working, which is good. Just needed a good bleed through. Exactly the same process as with the front brake. So when you're bleeding it, have your reservoir up here. You bleed kind of the reciprocal that you're putting the fluid into up here, and let the bubbles rise up the tube. Now exhaust. This is again Steve Parker's job. Let me get down onto the floor. And this is. Let's get Dale's light down here. Hello, Dale. This truly is a thing of beauty, this. It's dead easy to fit. I mean, basically, that is rock solid. It's a good diameter throughout. Nice big silencer at the back. It comes with everything. There's nothing that this thing did not come with. And it fits beautifully. So that was a piece of piss ready to fit. On the driver's side, we've already got, you see the wheels are out. Tailpipe comes out there. That's nice. That's a big piece of insulation there. That was blowing around the yard the other day. I thought, right, I'm having that. Might go in the wall. Yeah, tailpipe looks good. Location, nice big silencer. So I filled up the back axle. And I'm ready to start getting this thing off the stands. Because really there's no reason why this thing wouldn't start at the moment. Exhaust is in. I mean, okay, I've not fitted the intercooler or anything like that, but I've been messing around really just painting parts and just finalising the radiator install. There's no point putting this wing on until I've done that, because the axis is so fantastic. And we've got 3 bolts down here. 4 bolts down there, 1 screw up here, the wing comes off. Okay, there's a couple of bolts there as well. Do apologise. But, now, as far as the axis is concerned, let's get the light up here. As far as the axis is concerned for this Parker's sort of downpipe, can we get that there? Let's get that there. Let's get that there, and then get the light in. There we go. Right, so you can see the back end, you can see the turbo, you can see the actuator, and then you can see the downpipe. Now, this particular vehicle's had a huge cutout on the footwell, so all of this kind of cutout here wouldn't normally exist. And had that existed, this would still have been a really good fit. The fact that this has been cut out now, I mean, I'm not going to undo that. I'll leave it as it is. But yes, overall, I'm impressed so far with the quality of this 200 TDI. It's not the 300 TDI, it's 200 TDI kits running off a Discovery manifold and Discovery turbo. It's all been pretty straightforward. It would have been nice had the instructions for mounting the radiator been a little bit clearer to give me some accurate measurements and so forth. But it would be even nicer if a frame would have been provided, but a lot of people seem to be going down the 300 TDI route, and those products are much better catered for. Now, I was talking to a couple of contacts about the oil cooler here. Now, this thing's not going to be towing 4-ton trailers, so the argument was, actually, the Defender 200 TDI wouldn't have had an oil cooler. It's only the Discovery that did. Because the Discovery was going much higher speeds, it was more likely to be towing stuff, etc, etc, etc. So the general consensus seems to be along the lines of delete the oil cooler, put the Defender oil bottom on the oil pump and the Defender oil filter Ignore the oil cooler. I know I've got the oil cooler function on the radiator. So the Britpart Special radiator has got the oil cooler function, but it's then a case of faffing around and getting the right pipes set up for that. Because the position from the radiator to the oil pump is significantly shorter than it would be in a Discovery. So then kind of we're moving down the, well, we're going to make up pumps to plumb in an oil cooler that we don't really need. And I think it's just really a case of simplifying this thing now. Right, so I'm going to pop these back wheels on. These are what the customer wanted. So these are Wolf wheels. And they're running fairly chunky all-terrain TA BF Goodrich. What size are they? Where does it say the bloody size? Sit on my chair here. Oh, yes, that's nice. Mud and snow. I can't fuck it. Oh, here we are down here. So these are 235 85 R16s. Quite a big old tyre, that. For a chunky mud tyre. For this radiator install, there's got to be a compromise somewhere along the line. The issues I've got, the intercooler and the electric fan need to be clear enough from each other. But also, while they're clear from each other, I need to be able to make sure that, you know, the drive belt can be changed. And its point is, if I was to have this radiator completely vertical against the front panel, then you wouldn't be able to change the drive belt. So what I've decided to do here is I've mounted the bottom of the radiator on those flat plates, which I welded across and out. I've drilled holes through from the frame and down through the actual section, which if I lift this side up, you can probably just about see. There we are, there's a hole down there. And then that fixes the bottom of the radiator, and then all I've really done is I've adjusted the top of the radiator, made this L section of steel here, which I'm going to weld onto the underside, inside of the top mounting, and then screw it down onto the top panel, and that'll support the radiator. So it has to be a compromise. So the radiator is going to be at a jaunty angle, but I think that's the only way it's going to work out here. It really is the only way it's going to work out. I've still got a tickly throat, as you can see, or as you can hear. You can't see because I'm here. So I want the fan to be clear of the intercooler, and I want the drive belts to be accessible, and I want the radiator to be fixed. And that's the best way I can think of doing it. So I'm going to take this top piece off. The rest of the frame I'll kind of rattle canned, so it's roughly really where I want it to be. Take the top piece off, weld this piece of steel on the inside of it, put it back together again, and never take it apart again.